So the other day I was browsing the internet and came across a pretty interesting story about the Tahitian black pearl. I don't know if you've heard about this, but in the past, or currently, there are oysters that produce black pearls. And this oyster farmer found that his oysters were producing black pearls and tried to sell them and couldn't get anyone to buy them, even if he offered them at a discount. Eventually he came across a New York jeweler who said, "I'll take your pearls and I'll sell them in New York and we'll split the profit 50-50. And the oyster farmer was ecstatic and said, "Of course." So all the jeweler did was take these pearls and display them in a case next to diamonds and charge double the price of a normal pearl. And all of a sudden these pearls were going out like wildfire. The point of this story is that the product didn't change, but the most important factor was the price. And that's what I, Jacques Ferrer, and my colleague Rafael Fernandez are here to talk to you about today. So every effective pricing policy has two key qualities. The first of which is marketing strategy. And the important thing to note is that your marketing strategy has to align with your pricing policy, or you'll send a mixed message to consumers. A good example of this is Saturn. They wanted to send a message to consumers that they were friendly and easy to deal with as a car company. So they came up with this no hassle, no haggle policy, whereas compared to other car dealers, they had a single price for each type of car. You walked in, paid that price, and walked out. Customers didn't have to worry that another consumer was getting a better deal, and they didn't have to deal with the back and forth of car negotiations. And it worked out very, very well for them. The second quality is coordination within your company. There are many different departments in your company that can affect price. And if they're all working to each their own best interest, you won't wind up with a price that's best for the company as a whole. So if you bring all of these departments together by giving them information on what the company's price objective is and giving them incentives to work towards that objective, you can give a price that's best for the company. Now there are 8 steps to find that ideal price. The first of which is product value, or how does the customer perceive your product to be valued. For example, Glaxo came up with a medication for ulcers called Zantac to compete with its rival SmithKline's medication, Tagamet. And Zantac cost about the same to produce, but was significantly better in that it had less doses per week, had less serious side effects, and was more compatible with other drugs that Tagamet was not. So instead of just pricing around what Tagamet was priced, they increased their price to 50% of what Tagamet cost, and were the market leaders in 4 years with a much higher profit in that time. Another important point to look at is the variation in how customers value your product. Different customers can value in different ways. One way this comes into effect is intensity of use. A customer that uses your product daily will most likely value it much more than a customer that uses it on a monthly or even yearly basis. You can most likely charge a higher price to those daily customers. Secondly, you can have customers that use it for different things. If you have a customer, a good example is the Sealed Air Corporation, which created essentially bubble wrap packaging. And for standard shipping, they had stiff competition. But for heavy and long distance shipping, they had a much higher advantage when compared to the other companies, and therefore focused on that area. Finally, there's performance. Different customers may have different performance requirements, such as hospitals and pest control. They need a very high level of pest control, and so those companies that provide that level can charge a very high premium to hospitals. It's also important to look at price sensitivity of your customers. This falls into 3 categories. First, you have customer economics. For instance, if your product's a big cost when compared to the total cost the customer spends, they're going to be more price sensitive when it comes to your product. Secondly, you have to deal with competition. if your product's not differentiated when compared to other products, they're going to be more price sensitive when they buy it. Finally, you have customer search and usage. If it's easy to compare prices, easy to shop around when looking at your product and competing products, they're going to be more price sensitive. Different companies will have different emphasis on these different categories, so it's important to find what's best for your product. At this moment, I'd like to pass it on to my colleague Rafael, who will talk about the remaining 5 steps.
So first, good evening. I'm going to discuss the remaining 5 steps. First, we have pricing structure. This can be either quantity discounts, or it can be quantity discounts that are pretty much based on the different value customers have when buying repetitively. For example, if you go to Six Flags once, you might be willing to pay $50, but for going to the same theme park twice, you might only be willing to pay $40 for the second time. In that case, once you ramp up to 5 or for a summer pass, you'll be charging, only $100, $150 for the entire summer. Secondly, we have bundles. Since different customers have different perceived values for different products, sometimes you can bundle the products together so that the total value for both customers ends up the same. The example we have here, we have that buyer A would spend $9,000 on movie 1, $1,000 on movie 2, and a total of $10,000. Buyer B would pay $5,000 for movie 1, $5,000 for movie 2, totally, $10,000. But if you put one price for movie 1 and one price for movie 2, let's say $5,000, because that's the maximum you get only $15,000, $5,000 from buyer A and $10,000 from buyer B. By bundling it up, both buyers will spend the $10,000, and you can get, that this company actually got a 33% increase in their profits, or in their revenue. In addition to that, we have competitors' reactions. So you have to ask yourself, what would I do if I was a competitor, a new entrant came in, lowered their prices? Sometimes it's not just about a price war, it's more complicated than that. For example, American Airlines versus Southwest Airlines. American Airlines said, oh, I'll give you lower fares. Southwest Airlines came in and said, well, we would match your fares, but we'd have to raise our prices, which pretty much, destroyed American Airlines. In addition to that, we also have prices and transactions. You have to ask yourself, what is the real price of our product? It's not just about the price I give on the catalog or the book price. You also have to take into consideration discounts, rebates, and negotiated accounts, which pretty much drives your real price, your actual price down. Finally, before we finish, we also have to talk about emotional response. A lot of the customers, they have a perceived image of the company, and according to that, you actually create a reputation. A good example is Intuit with Quicken. Intuit said, I'm going to charge $35 for Quicken, and the customer said, oh, what a great deal. That great deal not only builds a reputation on a company that is working for you, for the customer, but it also builds up a customer loyalty and a customer base, which will invite additional customers to participate. Now, lastly, but not least, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? You have safe accounts, you have strategic accounts. Safe accounts are low cost to you, but you can charge a high premium. And you have all the strategic accounts, or what some people would call strategic accounts, where it's actually very high price to you, and actually you're charging a low price. When you take this into consideration, you have to take into consideration this equity axis, where you have to weigh the factors. Am I going to charge a lot? And how much does this cost for me? Is it cost effective? And basically, that's it. You take all of these factors, you put them together, and you rank them into what is better and what is most important for your company. And doing that, you create an objective for your company for the optimal pricing structure. Any questions?